The expensive dealership fell completely silent the moment the rusty old pickup truck rolled onto the polished driveway. Every luxury vehicle around it reflected wealth, success, and prestige, while the faded blue truck looked like it belonged to another lifetime. Dust clung to its worn paint, one headlight carried a small crack, and the engine rattled loudly before finally stopping. People glanced over with amused smiles, assuming the driver had entered the wrong place. But what happened over the next few hours would become the story every employee at that dealership would remember for the rest of their lives, proving that appearances can hide extraordinary strength, sacrifice, and quiet success. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, humility, and second chances still matter in today's world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Story so you never miss another heart-touching story. The driver's name was Nolan Mercer, a 42-year-old single father who had spent nearly 2 decades rebuilding broken machines while quietly rebuilding his own life. Every scratch on his old truck carried a memory. One dent came from helping neighbors move after a flood. Another scrape appeared while delivering emergency supplies during a winter storm. The faded paint had survived thousands of miles driven before sunrise and long after sunset. The truck was never simply transportation. It was the faithful companion that carried hope through the hardest years after Nolan lost his wife to a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise his young daughter, Isla. Life had never offered Nolan shortcuts. Every morning began before daylight, not because he wanted more money, but because he wanted to be present for his daughter every evening. He owned a small industrial repair company that specialized in restoring heavy manufacturing equipment that larger corporations often gave up on. While competitors focused on flashy advertisements, Nolan built his reputation through honesty, reliability, and impossible repairs. Customers trusted him because he never overpromised. If he accepted a job, he finished it no matter how difficult it became. Despite years of growing success, Nolan refused to change the lifestyle that had shaped him. He still packed homemade lunches, still repaired his own clothes whenever possible, and still drove the same truck he bought with his first business loan nearly 18 years earlier. Friends often encouraged him to buy something luxurious, but he always smiled and answered that the truck reminded him where he started. Every payment, every repair, and every mile represented another promise kept to his daughter. That bright morning, sunlight reflected across rows of luxury vehicles lined perfectly outside one of the city's most exclusive dealerships. Business executives arrived in tailored suits, entrepreneurs stepped from imported sports cars, and social media influencers recorded videos beside gleaming automobiles worth more than most homes. The dealership itself felt like an art gallery filled with chrome, marble floors, glass walls, and polished wood. Nolan parked his truck carefully at the far edge of the customer lot, hoping it wouldn't attract attention. He had already researched the vehicle he intended to purchase. For months he had quietly saved the money after completing a massive restoration project for a nationwide manufacturing company. Rather than celebrating immediately, he fulfilled every employee bonus, paid every supplier, expanded retirement benefits for his workers, donated to local vocational schools, and established a college savings account for Isla. Only after everyone else benefited did he finally decide to reward himself. Inside the showroom stood Celeste Vaughn, the young chief executive officer who had recently inherited leadership of the luxury dealership chain from her father. Intelligent, ambitious, and admired for her business achievements, Celeste believed first impressions revealed everything about a customer. She had spent years surrounded by wealth and high-profile clients, gradually allowing success to blur her understanding of ordinary people. When she noticed Nolan entering the showroom wearing clean but simple work clothes, sturdy boots, and hands marked by years of honest labor, her eyes briefly shifted toward the dusty truck outside. Several sales representatives quietly exchanged uncertain looks before one hesitated to approach him. Celeste walked over herself, wearing a confident smile that barely concealed her assumptions. She politely greeted him but quickly suggested he might feel more comfortable exploring the dealership's certified pre-owned inventory located several blocks away. Without openly insulting him, her tone implied that someone arriving in an aging pickup truck could never afford the handcrafted Rolls-Royce displayed beneath bright showroom lights. Several customers overheard the conversation and glanced toward Nolan with sympathetic expressions. Some smiled awkwardly, others quietly watched, curious about how he would respond. Nolan never became angry. Years of hardship had taught him that pride spoken loudly often concealed insecurity. Instead, He simply thanked her for the suggestion and calmly asked if he could at least view the Rolls-Royce Phantom he had researched online. His voice carried quiet confidence without a trace of arrogance. Celeste reluctantly agreed, believing the visit would end quickly once he learned the price. As they walked through the showroom, Nolan admired the craftsmanship rather than the status symbol. He noticed the precision stitching inside the leather seats, the smooth finish of the handcrafted wood panels, and the engineering details hidden beneath elegant design. He appreciated the work because he respected craftsmanship in every form. While Celeste explained optional features, she continued making assumptions based on appearances. She casually mentioned financing programs, extended payment plans, and trade-in possibilities, carefully avoiding direct questions that might embarrass him. Her polished professionalism masked quiet judgment. Nolan listened patiently before asking one simple question. He wanted to know the exact total price including taxes, registration, warranties, and every available option because he preferred complete transparency before making decisions. The request surprised several employees nearby. Within minutes, the finance department prepared the final paperwork. The amount exceeded $600,000. Without hesitation, Nolan reached into a weathered leather folder he had carried beneath his arm. Inside rested certified bank documents confirming immediate funds along with a cashier's check covering the entire purchase amount. Silence spread across the showroom. The finance manager examined the documents twice before looking up in disbelief. Everything was legitimate. Every whispered assumption disappeared instantly. The same employees who barely acknowledged Nolan now stared with stunned expressions. Celeste herself struggled to hide the shock crossing her face. The old truck outside suddenly seemed far less important than the man standing beside it. Yet Nolan showed no satisfaction in proving anyone wrong. He simply completed the paperwork with calm patience, thanked every employee involved, and carefully reviewed every document before signing. As the final signatures dried, one young receptionist quietly approached Nolan during a brief pause. She apologized for the uncomfortable atmosphere earlier, explaining she had wanted to welcome him but feared interrupting management. Nolan smiled warmly and assured her she had nothing to apologize for. Kindness shown quietly often mattered more than grand gestures performed for attention. That simple response deeply affected several employees listening nearby. Curiosity soon spread throughout the dealership. Everyone wondered how a mechanic driving an aging pickup truck could purchase one of the world's most prestigious automobiles without financing. The answer slowly emerged through conversations with local business owners who recognized Nolan's name. His company had rescued factories facing permanent closure after critical machinery failures. Hundreds of workers had kept their jobs because Nolan discovered repairs everyone else considered impossible. During economic downturns, he refused to raise emergency service prices even when demand exploded. He quietly paid medical bills for longtime employees facing family emergencies. Every Christmas he delivered anonymous gifts to struggling households throughout the community. Few people knew because he never spoke about it. Money had changed his bank account. It had never changed his heart. Celeste requested a private meeting before Nolan accepted delivery of the vehicle. Standing beside the gleaming Rolls-Royce beneath the bright afternoon sunlight pouring through the showroom windows, she admitted that she had judged him unfairly. She confessed that years of working among luxury had gradually convinced her appearance reflected value. Meeting Nolan forced her to confront a painful truth about herself. Rather than criticizing her, Nolan shared something his late wife once told him. She believed that every stranger carried a story invisible to everyone else. Some stories contained grief, others carried sacrifice, many hid extraordinary courage behind ordinary clothes. The moment people believed they understood someone by looking at them, they stopped seeing the human being standing before them. Those words settled heavily inside Celeste's heart. The experience transformed more than a single sale. Within weeks she introduced new customer service policies across every dealership location. Every visitor, regardless of clothing, vehicle, or appearance, would receive the same welcome, respect, and attention. Employee training shifted away from identifying wealthy customers toward serving every individual with equal dignity. Months later, customer satisfaction reached record levels. Ironically, treating everyone with respect proved even more profitable than judging who looked wealthy. Meanwhile, Nolan continued driving his beloved old truck almost every weekday. The new Rolls-Royce remained carefully protected for family celebrations, charity events, and the rare vacations he promised Isla after years of non-stop work. People often asked why he still preferred the aging pickup. His answer never changed. The truck reminded him of every impossible morning he survived, every late-night repair completed to pay another bill, every school event he refused to miss despite exhaustion, every promise made to his daughter, and every dream that seemed unreachable until one ordinary day it quietly became reality. Years later, Isla graduated from university with honors. During her graduation speech beneath a bright blue daytime sky filled with proud families, she thanked her father not for buying beautiful cars or building a successful company, but for teaching her that character grows through sacrifice, humility, and compassion rather than wealth. Among the audience sat Celeste, now one of the family's closest friends. She applauded with tears in her eyes, remembering the embarrassing days she almost failed to recognize greatness because it arrived driving an old pickup truck. Success had never been parked outside the dealership. It had quietly walked through the front door wearing dusty boots and carrying a father's unwavering love. If this story touched your heart and reminded you never to judge someone by appearances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Story. Your support helps these meaningful stories reach more people who need hope and encouragement. Special request: before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe respect should never depend on someone's appearance or possessions. As Nolan drove home under the warm afternoon sun, his old truck leading the way and his new Rolls-Royce following behind on its first journey, he smiled quietly. One vehicle represented where he had been. The other represented where life had taken him. But neither defined the man inside. His true wealth had always been measured in promises kept, people helped, and the daughter who grew up knowing that the greatest luxury in life is not found in expensive possessions, but in a humble heart that never forgets where it came from.